Guys, another day, another project. Today I'm going to be working on my NX250 and I'm going to be installing a Suzuki Bandit rear shock on it. The shock that the NX250 comes from the factory is not good. It's too soft, the spring rate is too soft, it's not adjustable, there's no preload, there's no dampening adjustment, so it's pretty terrible to say the least. So today I'm going to be installing a different shock on it. It will probably require some cutting, some fitting to make it work, so hopefully you guys liked the video.
So step number one, get the bike onto the center stand. So this is one of the kind of a cheap center stands you can buy from eBay or Amazon or something like that. So it's pretty crappy. It's kind of hard to get the bike on it. It's not stable, so you can kind of get the idea that this is not going to be very easy. The bike does float around on it quite a bit. It's 6 inches off the ground, and if it falls, it's probably going to cause some serious damage everywhere and probably going to break the plastic. But so that's why I put a strap around it. Hopefully it's not going to damage the seat, but it keeps the bike sort of from falling side to side while I'm doing the work on the back. So, but I'll be starting on removing the old shock. I'm going to drop the swing arm down and hopefully try to get the new shock in. So I'll show you what the new shock looks here in a second. So here's the new shock. This is out of like late 90s, early 2000s Suzuki Bandit. I think it's from a 600 model. From what I understand, there's a couple different things that you need to do with the shock to modify it. I think you have to cut this ring about halfway through, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take an angle grinder to it and cut it. Other than that, I think over here you need to cut stuff down, or actually on the bike where the shock mounts up at the top. I'm going to try to only modify the shock and not cut anything on the bike, because it's kind of hard to go back when you do that on the bike. But on the shock, worst case scenario, $50 out on this old shock. So, but the nice thing is that this shock has a rebound adjustment, which is pretty nice, and it has a preload adjustment as well, so I can dial it a little bit in terms of ride height and the shock stiffness. So we'll see how that goes. So next thing, taking stuff apart and trying to fit this thing on, so stay tuned. Alright, so the shocks are out. Check them out. Before we take a look at the shocks, let me show you what I ended up doing. So the whole seat situation wasn't very well planned. The bike was pretty unstable, and that seat was looking like it's never going to take its original shape after I take that strap off of it. So I pretty much did what most people do when they put the bikes on, like on the back of a truck or on a like on a trailer. So I just connected it to the bars over here on each side, strapped it down to the jack, the center jack, and it's actually pretty stable. So if you see, it moves around a little bit, but it's kind of planted in the front, and then the back is in the air. I got the jack underneath it, so I can easily take the shock out. So it was actually pretty easy. I had to take a couple plastic pieces, which is fine, but it kind of sucks. I just painted those pieces, and I'm mangling them, taking them on and off multiple times, but that's okay. So here are the shocks. So on the left, again, the Suzuki shock, and this is the original shock that was in the bike. So they actually look pretty good. I mean, they are almost identical in length. I think they're only there's only like a 10 millimeter difference, so which is awesome. It's pretty great that these things are supposed to fit almost identically. So the only thing that is concerning me so far is this mount up at the top. So this is quite a bit wider than over here. Some people cut this versus cutting the mount, which is probably what I'm going to end up doing. I'm just going to take an angle grinder to it and keep grinding it down. I'll probably measure this with a caliper and then try to match this size to this size without constantly, putting in trying to get it in and out of there to make sure that they work. I need to for sure cut this down. I think this is going to hit somewhere over here, so I'm going to have to cut it like that. So that's the next step. We'll see what happens when I'm done with this. So I got the shock mounted on my super tiny vise here. Cutting is, let's see if I can focus on this. It's kind of hard. The phone doesn't want to really focus on this, but there's a little I put a little mark on there where I wanted to here it is. So there's a little mark over there on one side. It's probably 2 or 3 millimeters that I'm going to cut off. Same thing on the other side. I'm not really 100% sure how this is going to work, but hopefully it does, and hopefully it fits. So I'm going to start cutting right now with my angle grinder. So hopefully I'm not going to set anything on fire or cut too much or break something and kill myself. So, but we'll see how this turns out. So I started cutting, and so far it looks okay. It's going through the piece on the bushing pretty well as well. So hopefully it's going to kind of continue going this way. One problem I found is with my gloves. So let me show you. This is my glove. This is what happens when you use an angle grinder and the sparks come right at your hands. So it burns the crap out of these thin, crappy gloves. So I'm going to have to figure out a way to prevent my hand from getting burned. So let's see how that goes. All right, so I successfully cut too much off of the sides of the shock on the top for the mount. A couple of millimeters more than I should have. So I think I might have to use the washers eventually. I haven't been able to put this thing in the bike yet to see if it actually fits and how much of slop there is in there. Which I'll be doing here in a minute. I'm almost finished with cutting the ring, and I'm not very smart. I'm touching a hot ring, so it kind of burned me a little bit, but so far it cut somewhat straight. Again, nobody's going to see this, I don't really care. So I gotta finish a little bit here. There's some of these little pieces haven't cut all the way through. It was easier than I thought it would be, so there's just a little bit left, and then I'm going to be test fitting this thing. So let's finish this. Well, great, I sprayed my car with hot sparks. It doesn't look like it damaged anything, so that should be alright. These things are just not even. I didn't measure it right, so but that's okay. Doesn't matter as long as it fits. Wow, this is one pathetic cut. Look at that. Both of them are freaking angled like crazy. So, yeah, lots of freaking fixing need to be done here. And I thought it was even on the other side, but it obviously is not even. It's all screwed up, so lots of repair needs to be done here. So hopefully I can get this fixed. So yeah, there's definitely way too much play now that I took off way too much material off the top of the shock. So found a washer. So I'm gonna put a washer in between, probably on one side at first, just to see if that helps. If that doesn't help, then I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna have to throw away the shock and start new. It is done. So the shock is in place. Everything mounted up pretty well. There was a little bit of an issue over there in a corner. It's kind of hard to see it, but there's a little bit of an area over there where this ring hits the air box. But I took a heat gun and warmed it up a little bit, pushed it a little bit here and there, and now it is fitting pretty well. There is probably a couple of millimeters of room in there, so I'm going to be dropping this off of this stand, putting it back on the ground, and I want to see what it looks like. It should have a lot less sag, should be a lot stiffer, and a lot nicer to ride, so we'll see what happens. Alright, so this is done. The shock is on the bike. It took a little bit of time, but I have to tell you, it's not a hard project. This was actually pretty easy. There were a lot harder things to do. Even taking the plastics off the bike for paint was probably a little bit more work. So, in conclusion, this works great. Gained a couple inches of travel
I can see that from right away without even taking the bike out. It was 65 degrees here yesterday in Denver. It is 30 degrees out and it's snowing. So I'm not taking this thing out for a ride anytime soon. But here in a garage, in an open space, get to sit on it, rebounds perfectly. It doesn't droop at all. I mean, it droops a little bit, but it's good. It has to droop a little bit. You don't want it to be at full extension when you're sitting on it. So it droops about a quarter of an inch, which is good. This is good for riding. I like it so far. I think it's going to be great. I haven't played with the rebound adjustment or with the preload. So far it's great. I like it. So it's going to be perfect for riding on the street. Great off-road, I'm sure. This video wasn't really a do-it-yourself video. It was more of a kind of check out what my projects are like. If you guys like these videos, I have a ton more projects coming up. I'm going to be working on my Turbo Miata pretty soon here. I'm going to be finishing up the lift kit on my Jeep Cherokee, playing around with the shackle angle, which is going to be a little bit of a different thing. I just learned that actually makes a difference for the ride quality. So got some relocation brackets. I'm going to be going over how I did that, and then I'm hopefully going to be doing more work with this 88 NX250. If you guys are interested in this video or any other videos that I'm going to be coming up with sometime soon, let me know in the comments. If you don't like them, if you hate them, let me know. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.